Welcome to Planning Phase Syndicate, episode 103, the Pride of Mandalore review, and Nickel City League Season 3 review. Welcome. Joining us tonight will be some special guests, and we'll get into that in just a minute. But we're going to be covering, a whole smattering of things. Essentially, we are going to be talking about Nickel City Season 3 League, what was successful, what Greg is going to change to make sure that I go 10-0 next season. And we're going to be talking with the two captains that showed down in the finals and get their take on the league. We're also got 3 store champs we're going to cover tonight. Nothing super special, but they had a couple of lists that were unique, and I wanted to kind of go through some of those. With that being said, lastly, we're going to follow up with having a conversation about the Pride of Mandalore store champ kit, because it's not really a store champ, but it is some sort of a store kit, so I don't know if there's a ticket inside, but JJ has the inside scoop as he is preparing to get his win in a couple of weeks. With that being said, let's bring absolutely everybody in, and yes, it is a big panel tonight. Please welcome JJ, Giants still suck and always will, Gridiron. How are you doing tonight, everybody? Sir?
Yeah. Still recovering. For those who don't know, I had a work accident early last week that hurt me pretty bad. I'm still recovering through it, but thankfully I'm here tonight, being able to speak with all these wonderful gentlemen, and excited to go through some X-Wing.
Joining us also is Alex, the bench warmer. How are you tonight, sir?
I'm doing okay. How are you?
Good. Then we have Greg, Captain Greg, the confidant, the owner, the proprietor of Nickel City. How are you tonight, sir?
I don't know if it counts as owning it.
You own it. Somebody owns it.
I don't think it's the thing. I think I have to make it like an LLC.
Then we have the runner-up Team CFIS team captain, Andrew. How are you tonight, sir?
I'm doing great.
That's it, just great. No Corgi reference, nothing. Shout out to the Queen, nothing.
At some point, Mr. Whalen will come barking during the middle of the show. And when that happens, everyone will hear it.
And then the 3-0 team captain, Havoc, Crispy here, to have a conversation about how much money he paid Greg to ensure his team has won all 3 seasons.
Tanner, you know I can't afford that.
Fair enough. Maybe you can. We don't know. We don't know what you do on the side. Maybe you guys have like a special hustle that you guys do down in Florida.
Nickel City OnlyFans, baby.
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, Greg didn't know you had a ponytail, so I mean, maybe you let your hair down on the seat behind the scenes. So
they want to see your alt arts, man. They want to see the alt arts. That's what.
Well, welcome everyone. Thank you all for joining us tonight. It is a busier cast, but we thought it would be fun to have on Greg and the captains to kind of talk a little bit about Nickel City League, get us kind of pumped because Greg decided he's going to start the new season next week, if you didn't know. Just kidding. But we want to talk a little bit about why Nickel City League has kind of been a precipice, and talk a little bit about community building, because I feel that Greg has worked very hard to build a community of like-minded people that's a pretty open community where lots of people are accepted and only people that are pieces of shit are rejected. So
I've only ever had to ban one person.
Who was that? Who'd you ban?
He's actually a local in Buffalo, Butch, fun, but you just said some things that were pretty racist. So, you know.
Yes, I remember.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Yep.
Yeah.
The second you said it, I'm like, oh, yeah, I remember that.
Man, that almost predate me.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I don't care if you're a conservative. We let conservatives play X-Wing like it's not like a thing. But when you start exposing some views that are less conservative and more, I don't know, fascist, we pull the plug.
Yeah.
Well, fair enough. Either which way, thank you all for joining us tonight. I want to wish everybody a happy Pride Month. I know I'm a week late. It technically started 11 days ago. But happy Pride Month, and to kind of celebrate a little bit of that, I decided to dedicate the episode to Dr. Aphra, who is my favorite character that should get her own movie. Really, she should have her own movie, in my opinion. But that's a whole different conversation that we can have later. What I want to do before we kind of get into the Nickel City League is we've all been flying some lists. We've all been playing a bunch of X-Wing, at least most of us have. I don't know about JJ, but everybody else has been playing quite a bit of X-Wing. What I want to do is let's go around and say, who's our new favorite pilot? There we go. So who have you been flying lately, and who's your favorite pilot? And we're going to start with Alex. How are you?
Oh, boy. New pilot? I haven't really flown any new pilots.
Since the points have changed. I mean, it could still be the same one you fly all the time, but...
Yeah. I've been flying Merle a lot more now than I have because Finn is no longer 3 points, so I slotted in Merle. And for some reason, people keep bullseyeing him all the time. And that's really bad. That's really bad on their behalf. They keep running into him and they're bullseyeing him, and then you one-round Luke because he has 1 agility.
Yeah, but also fuck Finn, so even trade.
Finn is dead. Finn is dead. Hooray.
Heck yeah. For me, it's been a mix between Merrick Steele, particularly because you could put afterburners on him with dead eye shot and marksman, and then Sunfac in the separatist. Those are the two I've been playing around with a lot. Merrick Steele, if you're able to get a lot of other shots ahead of him and have him be the last I-5 to shoot, if you have that bullseye lined up, you can essentially generate a crit. Spend it, flip over a card, then do another crit with the ATC, assuming you have a lock on that person. And then if that hit goes through, you can choose 3 more crits, choose whatever the best one is, and assign it over. Merrick can make things explode. So that's good.
Very cool. Greg, who's your new favorite pilot since the points change?
Well, I was going to say Fen Rao Scum because welcome back, buddy. But I think it's got to be Boskin the Z. Ends up in all of my scum lists. Marksmanship and Deadman's.
Yeah. That's kind of hard to pass up, too. A 2-point boss that could just start splitting everything. Seems pretty good to me.
I-4, pretty good on objectives. You get that crit through. You get the split for 2 points. Name a better 2-pointer.
BB-8.
Yeah,
No.
No.
There's like 3 other ones.
BB-8 sucks.
I have Bosk in the top 3 for 3-pointers. I think BB-8 and Iron Assembler are just flat out better than him.
And Sabine.
Iron Assembler is actually better than him. Name 2 ships that are better at 2 points.
I like Sabine a lot, but
Sabine's 3.
No, TIE Fighter.
Oh, TIE Fighter Sabine? No one flies it. No one's flown it yet.
Everyone flies it.
Everyone has been flying it.
Not one person.
Not one person? Okay.
Am I not a person to you, Greg?
Okay, Greg.
Yes. First off, you're not. Second.
Fair.
Not once. We haven't seen one Sabine tie on stream.
All right. How about Andrew? Who's your new favorite pilot to fly right now?
Well, it's Sabine TIE Fighter, obviously. I actually have been flying a lot of Sabine TIE Fighter. By the time I started playing X-Wing, Supernatural Reflexes was Carney already on like the Banhammer, you know. At that point, AMG had already said, you know, the style changing stuff's going away. A lot of tournaments already banned it, so I hadn't gotten to play it before. And now that I'm playing it, I'm glad it's not really available anymore.
You can see why it was banned.
It's really obnoxious and stupid. And yes, I can block you 4 turns in a row if I want to, very easily.
Oh, also, just because a lot of people are flying this one, but I am also hyped. I'm excited. I like that the bombers have returned.
Yeah.
I'm not thrilled with the fact that everyone's done Barrage Rocket Saturation Salvo, but I'm still happy the bombers are back.
All right, Crispy, you're up.
So right now, I mean, my old favorite is Wrath, just because he's that good. And like, funny enough, he actually got sort of nerfed in this update, but he still can hang with all the other 5-pointers in the faction, which is really fun.
Your answer is Sun Fact. Just get it out.
But no, okay, I'm getting to my CIS ship. It's actually DGS 047. Because now I've seen what 3-point coordinators can do for other factions, and I believe this is the first time that CIS gets something along the lines of that, because you can put Hondo on them, and Hondo MP has got to be one of my favorite ships ever. Like what he does to this faction, what he enables some of these ships to do, like double modding Sun Fac, as he dives into those shots. In my finals match against Mark Grauberg, I did some pretty ridiculous stuff with that HMP and Dirge, which I figured out how to do that, and now that's been like one of my go-to tricks for CIS. It's a lot of fun.
I'm gonna yell at Mark.
I remember when I suggested that, and everybody gave me shit for it.
And then I flew it twice. I flew it a couple times and went, you know what? You know what Sunfac needs? A coordinator. And then
Chris,
Sunfac
have you
is
ever not
unkillable.
just given someone a coordinator? Isn't that your entire shtick? Let me take this good ship and give it a coordinator.
Yeah, I mean that's how I ran Scum. Was like, it's like every Scum list starts with Gamut Key. Every single Scum list starts with Gamut Key. Every single First Order list starts with Gideon Ask. And now we generally haven't had a coordinator for like super cheap in CIS. I think like you could put Hondo on an HMP, but it would be 4. And then back then, even though like that was eating most of your loadout. So being able to specifically like get an extra squad point in there with some of your other power pieces that came down, you can make some pretty nasty lists that have a lot of good control elements to it.
And Hondo, I'm sure, works really well with independent calculations. Just eat up one calculate instead of losing a full everything.
Yep. There will always be someone to jam on your team.
Yeah, so here's the official quote from Crispy. I sent him a list. So it's like pretty late at night.
Okay.
I don't hate it. Is Hondo seriously worth it here? Who's getting the coordinate? That's literally
okay. What's the context of the list? Hold up, I'm finding that right now. You cannot pull receipts on me.
I can, because I was the one that introduced you to
right
Hondo.
Now. I am finding that.
What I did is I took my worlds list, subbed Django out for Zam, then added got rid of the bomber and added the HMP.
Okay,
now,
yeah, okay. Are you coordinating Zam every turn? She doesn't need tokens. She's got 1 million.
Dirge. It was Dirge. But
it was Dirge? Okay.
It was Dirge.
Sure.
But I switched it up and got rid of Zam and went to Sunfac, and because which will lead into my favorite pilot is now Reroll Man, T81. So I don't care. I'll tell you, like, people literally will look at that ship and they either know that they have to point 2 or 3 ships at it at one time, or they're gonna get run over. Like, I literally had a guy chase him around. Just seriously, just the whole ship did nothing but chase him around. And he lived. And if he had died, I would have lost. But he just lived the whole time. And it was just like, sorry, I could still... It's like the Finn bullshit, right? I get to roll the 2 green dice no matter what every time. And I'll just take strains and roll 2 dice no matter what every single time. So,
yeah.
Funny reroll man makes running fun. Normally when you're running with a ship, it's like anxiety inducing and not fun. You're just like, oh, I'm going to 3 bank or 3 hard and hope I don't get shot. But with Funny Reroll Man, it's a big joke. Like, it's all very funny because you just do bullshit every single turn.
Yep.
Correct.
Like, I one time, it sucked because I was playing Sean in our last Third Chance and I one-hearted because I was stressed, kept, the strain and the deplete, had boost and fucking range 1 outmaneuvered, and then I forgot boost can boost. So it's like, oh, that's right. Now,
Another 2-pointer that's better than Bosk.
So anyway, so I thought that, I don't know, it seemed fun. Like it's funny fun to see what people are running now that's new comparatively. We spent the last couple episodes going over lists, some sort of champ stuff, and I wanted to take a tiny bit of a break from that this week and have some people on and kind of talk about community building, because as much as Greg likes to kind of just shrug some of that off, Greg has done a very good job at building up a community and a league that has people coming back every time. So Greg, tell us a little bit about your Nickel City League, why you wanted it, and how much Crispy has paid you to win 3 seasons in a row.
Okay, well, Crispy's too poor to pay me. What Crispy does is he bribes the other captains with McDonald's food. And personally, I, at this point, blame the other captains. Like, at least hold out for Arby's. Make him spend something. Like,
Arby's.
Just any, like, you get it. Anyway, why did I want to start the league? Fuck. What was I thinking? You know what I was thinking? I was thinking it's such a pain in the ass to book stream nights that if I had something where they had to play anyway, it would probably be less annoying to book stream nights. And then it just became doubly annoying because they had to play, but also I gave them a whole week. I should have made it Tuesdays and Thursdays only when you're allowed to play. No, I just wanted a league of my own. You know, like everyone kind of had their thing at the time. You know, GSP had their stuff. Hexiled had whatever that tournament is.
Kyber.
Yeah, Kyber Cup. We didn't really have anything at Nickel City. We just kind of, we've always been like the third stream, like maybe this sounds stupid, but the alternative stream to like the big two. But we didn't have anything. I was like, well, this is going to be work for me, but if there's something here, then maybe that'll keep people around and give people who actually really enjoy the alternative stream something to latch on to, other than just, you know, talking shit in the Discord every now and again. I did not think it was going to, I literally thought season 1 was 20 people, and I thought it was going to be like 20 to 30 forever. And now there's 90, and I don't have enough envelopes.
So, Greg, in your mind, like going forward, if you see this expanding, you know, season after season, I
honestly thought it was going to retract after this season. I thought it was going to go down.
So, what do you think in your mind that like a number of players where all of a sudden it becomes like too hard to like manage? What do you think?
There's no number. If it ever got to the point where I can't actually do it myself, then I would just create a website where you input games and stuff on that instead to lower the burden on me, and it would update to like a SQL database. And then I just pull everything from the SQL database. It'd be easy peasy. But like,
we should do that anyway.
Yeah, but that's fun. That's so much work for something that I can just do on my own. But I would just ask someone to help me. Like, first off, I just don't see it continually growing at the pace it's growing. It's already going to slow down because like you can't, it was doubling basically every season, but you can't, like that just doesn't work. There's not enough people to do that indefinitely. So like the pace it's already going to slow down on. And then, you know, we'll see how it goes. But yeah, there's no, if for tomorrow we ended up with 200 people, I would just step back, freak out for a minute, and then ask for some help and get it done anyway.
Cool.
Well, awesome. well, we thank you very much for the league. I will say it has given me a substantial place, and the format of it is outside of when we could play banned cards. That sucked. Having to face off against Sloan more than one time was not fun.
What do you mean?
Yeah. So that was not the best, but Greg Greg has changed the league so that we can't play certain banned cards anymore. So that is nice. Maybe you should throw in supernatural reflexes to whatever team is on the bottom after halfway through the season. Like, here's a free supernatural reflex for each of your teams. Figure it out.
Oh, no.
You could already do that. It's called flying 5 Adas. I mean, come on.
Yeah, there you go. Get Desi on. Draft Desi.
All right, so why don't we talk a little bit about the season? We'll get into some of the results here in a minute. And so we brought on Crispy from Team Havoc and Andrew. Are you officially named Andrew, or did you have to like change your name after Worlds?
No, I'm back to Andrew because I finished 69th, which Greg decreed. So for the viewers at home, there's the Andrew Bowl at every major tournament, in which the collective group of players whose names are Andrew, which there are always a lot, compete to have their name stay Andrew. And top finisher is Andrew. Then there's some Andys in the middle, and whoever finishes last is Drew, because that's a very shameful name. And at Worlds, I finished 69th in the LCQ, which Greg, as our emperor of the Drew Bowl, decided counts as first. So I've elevated myself from Drew to Andrew, one big step from this one event where I did not make the next day.
But 68th would have been a Drew.
Agreed.
69th, you're an Andrew.
Yes.
Well, tell us. So your team kind of had we'll call it the Crispy effect. Is that what we get to call it? Where you kind of submarine and then come all the way back to try to win it at the very end. And if you don't know, Crispy went 0-2 at Worlds and then won 8 straight games after that. So just miscut by one person. But anyway, so Andrew, what changed? Did you have like a different strategy? Did anything different happen that you did differently, or did you just kind of take every week and say fuck the world?
Yeah, what happened in week 3?
I mean, I don't know. You know, I think a lot of it's on the players just getting the wins they needed to. The faction change helped a lot. So halfway through the season, captains have an option to switch every faction. So in the base format of the league, every player is locked into a faction. They pick a new list for every single week, or the same list if they want. We switched factions halfway through the season, and our results picked up and continued to pick up. I got a few players in the factions and got them into lists that they were more comfortable with, and they just rattled off a lot of wins. A couple of my players, Mark and Vince and Dan, who all 3 of whom I think lost the first 3 weeks, then rattled off 5 or 6 wins apiece. And again, part of that was faction switch, and part of that was just them putting the team on their back and getting a lot of wins.
And then Crispy, your team finished 7th out of all of them, and essentially you were on the bottom tail end, and somehow you managed to come back and win the finals. I believe 4-1. It was 4-1, right?
4-1. Yep.
Yeah. So how did you guys' strategy change? Was it just a luck thing?
So we started 0-3, which is not a good place to be. But in our division, it was very nice because it was very competitive. Like every single team had a chance to make the playoffs and had a way to do it. So there was a lot of chaos up at the top where certain teams, you know, like if they just kept winning, they were fine, but they ended up losing. And then in week 4, my first round pick started winning games, which definitely helps when you trade with V Team to get V Team's first overall pick. First round, 3rd overall pick. And then that player goes 0-3 for the first 3 weeks. So once we kind of got that under, we got that swept away. We started doing well. We got 0-10 swept by Punishers in the regular season. Also did not help. And then we ended up sneaking, I think, third in our division. We played a good Mega Milk team into the playoffs. We beat them 3-2, and then we swept Punishers back 3-0, and then we went and played Corgis. So very, very hard fought. We overcame a lot, and we kept grinding. We kept grinding basically. A lot of good matchups. I'm very happy with the matchups that I made for all of our games. And even then there were some times where we were away, like we were the away team, and the matchups were, very good for us. Like I think specifically against the Punishers, where, they swept us in the earlier season when they had good matchups that they knew, and they gave completely different matchups, and we were able to sweep them back.
Well, fun. Well, let's flip over and we can look at a little bit of the statistics here. As you can see, we have the order. Team Endgame came in 10th place, and we're going to blame JJ for that because we can. Out of everybody else. So CFIS, so these were, Greg, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think these are the finals that are the numbers before playoffs, correct?
Yeah, these don't have playoffs in them.
Okay. That's what I thought. I didn't think you added playoff numbers specifically, but I didn't know. I couldn't remember.
No, I don't really keep stats for the playoffs. It's about the team.
It's about the team. So there's kind of the point. I will give kudos to KDB because they had 666 points total for the season, and I say Greg should have given them an immediate buy into the playoffs just for the points numbers. Anything to make anybody else feel uncomfortable. I love that number. But you can kind of see some of the standings. We are separated into two different divisions. And yeah, so moving on to the finals. This is kind of the final numbers for the week. As you can see, I believe Havoc swept CFIS the first 3 games, correct? The final game was the only one that Andrew, that your team won, correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. I couldn't remember if it was the first or the last, so. And then you didn't play that week. Is there a reason you didn't play that week?
Yeah, a bunch of reasons. I think for me, really, there's nothing to win. And in the finals of the league, my team would have probably had a higher chance of winning had I played. Like I finished, I don't know, 6-2 or something regular season, like one of the top players. I was playing very well, but I felt like my team earned the opportunity. My 2 last draft picks were 2 of like the top 5 players in terms of like how well they finished in the standings compared to how well they were drafted. They both finished like 15 spots above where they were drafted, which is pretty spectacular. And I think they both finished 5-3, and one of the 2 of them was probably the correct person to bench if I wanted to win. But I felt like all the 5 players on my team deserved to play because all of them played so well in the regular season that I just wanted to let them have it. It was like, for me, it was not about winning. There's no stakes. There's no prize. They played well. They were fabulous to have. We had a great season, so I thought they should play.
Awesome. Crispy, what was your thoughts going into the final week?
Besides Kris Jenner.
All right. So let's address this once and for all. Kris Jenner, Havoc's MVP for the season, our MVP candidate, was unable to play that week. Simple as that. And I think that we had a really, really good opportunity to show that Havoc is more than just its star players. It is the entire roster. And by entire roster, that includes me, Ollie Pocknell, and Matt Carey, and Optics, and Chris Molly. So we put up a very, very good show. I had a lot of, matchups for a lot of these guys planned out. We sort of understood by this point what we were good into, what we weren't. We didn't do a faction swap throughout the season, so we had gotten pretty good with, what we had been flying. Points changed, we were doing just fine. And then we opened it up with an amazing first game, Optics into Dan. Huge energy to open up the series. And then from there, we just carried that momentum.
Well, awesome. Well, Greg, I still again want to congratulate you on running a very fine league. Again, to me, it's all about the fun, right? Like, I don't think there is any. I have not had any more fun playing in any online leagues than I did this one. Like, everything else has been fun, but this has been immensely fun. And the team atmosphere to me is kind of what sets this league apart. I like the fact that we get teams. And I like the ability that it has given me practice mates. How about that? Before it was me practicing with people at my locals online. And after a while, you kind of get into that little, funk where you're playing against certain people. You know how they play. They know how you play. And it's not as much of a challenge. Your league has opened up the opportunity for people to play. And I will say, with the league being very inclusive, it was nice that we were able to recruit some players. There's some people from our locals that play in your league now, and stuff like that. So it's kind of neat seeing a lot of familiar
Crispy's whole
faces online.
family.
Yeah, Crispy's whole family. Yeah, I didn't even know Crispy's whole family even played X-Wing.
Literally all of them.
I roped the entire family into X-Wing, except for my mother. We're still working on her.
And we will get Crispy's mom in this league.
Exactly.
And I have to ask, so Crispy, you go by Crispy probably because there's a million of us Chris's, but your father does not call you Crispy. And I had to play your father, I don't know, it was like 2 weeks before the end or something like that. And he kept saying Christopher. And it's just, I'm sitting here in my head, I'm like, well, that's my name. Like, fuck, what are you talking to me about?
Yep.
And then I realized he's not talking about me because I never met your father ever. So like it's obviously not fucking me.
Yeah. My parents are like the only two people in the world, I think, outside like my grandparents, that like the only people that I talk to on a regular basis that don't call me Chris or Crispy. They are strictly Christopher and nothing else. And it is like that's just my parents, it's like, it's not like a big deal or anything. Like, I'm not gonna like get upset with them for calling me Christopher, because that's what I've been called for my entire life. But when I'm on here and I've got sort of, I don't want to say a reputation, but like it feels like, sure, all right, don't feed my ego. It's just very jarring to hear it every now and then.
Well, it's funny because in my professional life, I've always pushed people to use Christopher, and it's because everybody says Chris, but when you say, they go, well, would you prefer this or that? And it's like, well, I prefer Christopher, because then they have to repeat it, and then they remember your name, whether that's good or bad, depending on the company you work for. But it has done very well for me. People remember my name, and it was funny. I have for the last company the company I'm currently with, my boss, like, I made a point about that to my boss, and he, to this day, 2 years later, he still uses it in every team meeting. And I finally like had to tell him, I was like, you don't have to say that anymore. If you guys don't know who the fuck I am now, then like, just fire me or transfer me.
I call you Tanner.
What's that? You call me
I
Tanner?
call you Tanner. Well,
and that's it's kind of like the Crispy thing. It's my preferred online handle is Tanner. It's just, and it all stems from growing up with a million Christophers. So like. It's you, Greg. We can see you. Let me say it I don't know what that was. I don't know if you are doing something we don't want to know about.
Twizzlers, baby.
Okay.
Oh, that's grading.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Welcome to Plating Face Syndicate grading AMSNR or whatever the hell they call that.
ASMR.
ANSMR.
Yeah, I don't know what that stands for.
NASCAR.
All right. Well, thank you all. Greg, do you have anything else you want to say about the league? Maybe push it so that people know when season 4 starts and all of that fancy jazz if they want to sign up.
Season 4 signups are now. They're happening right now. And the league is going to start in the middle, well, I guess end of August. It's kind of going to be the player draft. Like I think the 23rd is what it's scheduled for right now. We got a lot of work to do. We're at 90 signups right now. I'm hoping for at least 96 to get us 16 teams because 15 teams is an absolute nightmare to do. So,
will you still do just 2 conferences between the 16 teams?
16 teams are going to be 2 conferences, 4 divisions.
Nice.
So each conference will have 2 divisions, and then there'll be interdivisional play.
Nice.
In the conference.
Like it.
Well, cool. So JJ will post that link in the Discord as well as in our Twitch chat, and we'll have it added into our links in all of our shareable material later. Well, guys, thank you all. You're welcome to stick around for the rest of the episodes. You don't have to go anywhere. We're going to cover some store champs and some Pride of Mandalore, so if you want to stick around, we will be doing that next. Speaking of store champs, JJ, have you guys set our Planning Phase Syndicate Showdown 2 store champ date yet?
Not yet, no. Just because we're waiting for more of those awesome cards that we're going to do for our patrons. We want to make sure that we have a couple of those to give away for the store champ that we're going to host. So as soon as we get a little more information for that, then we can set a date for us. It'll be held over at the Atomic Empire here in Durham, North Carolina. Probably around September, but we'll see, just depending on how everything shapes up.
All right. Well, cool. Well, hopefully we'll be having that soon, and hopefully we will be able to you'll be able to join us and support that store. I don't know, Andrew, you live down there too, don't you?
I live in Atlanta, so yeah. No, Durham is like 5 or 6 hours.
Okay,
which honestly, like, that's a week. I do that at least once a year up to that area. So we'll see if we can get that done.
There you go. All right. Well, why don't we flip over and look at some store champ lists here? We will start with Curio Cavern in Virginia. And Alex, why don't you tell us a little bit about the top list there from the Rebel Alliance?
Okay. It does look like Duncan won this, but since he already won a store champ, it went down to Chaffee, who came in second there. His list, Rebels, it had Han Solo. I'm sure you'll be seeing him a lot in the store champ season. He had Trickshot, Bistan, Perceptive Co-Pilot, and Title. Boy Luke, that other person you'll see a lot. Wedge with Marksmanship and Predator, also another ship you'll see a lot. Keo with Rockets, and Sabine with Beskar Reinforced Plating. That list pops up a lot everywhere. At multiple store champs, it's a very balanced list and can hit pretty hard.
So here's a question for you guys. Do you think that Elusive has lost its value at 4 points over Predator at 3 points?
Yes.
I think it
you
kind
think
of
offensive mods. Yeah. I'm kind of like in between, right? Because there's certain instances where, like, you're looking at a ship that has an odd number of loadout points, and you kind of always want to maximize as much as you can. And when you look at Wedge having 5 loadout points, I always hesitate, between Predator and Elusive, just because I don't want to lose that extra point. So I'm always curious to see, like, if you prioritize having the passive mods with Predator or having a defensive mod with Elusive.
I'm on Team Marksmanship Crackshot for A-Wing Wedge, but Predator ain't too bad either.
Yeah, I think you just take crack shot. I also don't think that wedge is very good. Like the list is good, but the wedge is the weakest part by far, I think. And I don't know, just take crack shot. Like take a damage at some point, and he's gonna die. Who cares? He's useless.
Yeah. I am a fan. I'm generally a fan of Predator over crack shot for most instances. But for this particular case, I think I would take crack shot just because you're not really planning on longevity for wedge. You're not going to get multiple instances of Predator because honestly, your opponent's probably going to try to kill wedge fairly quickly because that's a ship in your list that can die quickly and at I4 can be caught by a lot of enemy ships. All you got to do is line up that bullseye once, get the crack shot, like spend it, do it, a good use of loadout, and then you can die happy. Meanwhile, if you try going after Predator and it doesn't work, then you're sure you're lining up the bullseye, so the crack shot would have been useful anyway. But the Predator really only becomes better than crack shot if you're using it like close to 3 or 4 times a game. So
yeah, there's a lot of I4 and I5s. There are I5s and I6s out there. There's one I4 in every list, basically, which if you get lucky in wedge, you can line up that crack shot. But there's a lot of I5s and I6s, and a lot of them could reposition. So you can just not be in wedge's bullseye pretty easily. Let's look at shot buy-in, which is annoying. But
is there like another ship you would take instead of wedge then?
Maybe Hall.
Yeah,
Maybe Hall, but I still like wedge.
in that list, I wouldn't take Hall. But
I've been playing it a bunch, and opponents tend to shoot and kill wedge first, which I think is usually the right call. Like if you don't want to kill Han, you kill wedge first. And so if he ends up tokenless almost always, and when you're tokenless, 2 red dice is 2 red dice. It's not very good. And it's okay to have a 3-point ship. It's not very good if the rest of the list is good enough. I don't know if there's a lot that he can do there. Like he's just not going to contribute a lot. And that's a lot of lists are going to have a weak point, and he is just the weak point there. I'm curious to try Hall, but haven't had the chance to.
I wouldn't do Hall on that list. A lot of it's just kind of very maneuverable, and your white wing is just going to be caught out. It's more of a point sink than wedge.
Because you already have Sabine to sit in the back to take the box. You don't really need another slow thing to sit in the back.
So another question, so what if they, and I see nobody's using it because it's probably not as good, but what if they use that config for those A-wings, right? Because that gives wedge a little bit more maneuverability, right? He doesn't always have to shoot out the front. It does hurt your reposition per se, but at the exact same time, it gives you the pre-position, kind of like Sabine does, and on top of it, they're both low initiatives or lower initiatives. How often is Keo and wedge outmaneuvering anybody but maybe CIS?
It kills Keo to have that config though, because you can't you have to do like the 2 ARDs for that ability. Because it's a red boost or a red rotate, so
Yeah, that's true.
and it increases the difficulty of your maneuvers when you do the side slip with Keo. So it's a little bit questionable.
Yeah, and it's a general principle, like focus on your strengths. And Keo is crazy strong for 3 points. She's pretty absurd at times when you get her like really going. And so let Keo do what she's best at and accept that you have a weak point, and don't try to bring her down to take the worst part of your list up a little bit.
I think especially if you have prockets, you want to keep the repo option so that way you can focus and boost in the same turn. Otherwise, you are entirely relying on your system phase reposition to get you the bullseye, and then you focus. Meanwhile, if you can focus into a boost, you have a little bit of wiggle room during the activation to go line something up if you have the shot.
I also feel like prockets is the wrong call. And it seems to be what most people are taking, but I like
Depends on the
Conks
list.
or Duke because like one procket, you can go for the dream, but even if you get the 4 hits, which is like slightly positive variance, you're probably pushing through an extra damage versus a range 1 shot, like maybe 1. But something like Conks or Duke can generate that extra damage multiple times a game. And I think I find myself taking a lot of evades with Keo because I want to block and be safe, and that's the best choice. and I don't always have the focus because like my force is up. Why do I need the focus? But curious to hear everyone else's thoughts.
See, I kind of agree with you. I'm the same way. If I don't have a dedicated coordinator in my list that can get out multiple tokens to Keo, then I'm gonna trade out rockets for better talent and probably a cheaper missile, just so Keo can survive longer on their own. If I do have a coordinator, then at that point I would go a little more offensive with proton rockets, just because it does have a high ceiling if it does happen to hit. But other than that, yeah, like I totally agree with you in your philosophy.
I fly my Rocket Keo with Lando, and that's enough of a kind of at I-5 in order to do maybe a target lock reposition or an evade reposition for that.
Yeah. I feel like the Procket works well if you have someone there to help her out. So that way you are more you are increasing the chance that you're going to get that payoff. I think if you don't generally, and like this is what I see a lot of people run, is just Lone Wolf and concussion missiles. Lone Wolf dropping to 3 is fantastic, especially with Keo, who has a force. So you can just run Keo kind of on her own. She basically locks every turn, just threatens the double modded concussion, and then she also has double modded defense because she's I3. A lot of the people are going to be shooting at her beforehand, so she's going to have the Lone Wolf and the force for defense, and then whatever of those she doesn't use on defense, she then turns around and uses that on offense for the 3-die concussion. Also, the concussion missile at I3 generally going to be shooting after everyone else on your list, which means that the rest of your list, like Han and Luke, have opportunities to push damage cards through to your opponent that Keo can then follow up on.
Especially with Sabine being at the same initiative, so Sabine could even shoot first if need be.
Correct.
All right. Well, let's move on to Duncan's list here. And I got it up here. Andrew, why don't you go through that resistance list for us?
Okay.
Correct, Bo. Let me tell you.
And just so if the viewer, we had Duncan on, 3 weeks ago? Was it 3 weeks ago, JJ?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Duncan committed to winning a store champ with every different faction. So I guess if he won this one, which I did not see until after I posted this, he's officially got 2 of them now. So
Duncan did put a long raid up in Crate Cord about it. So I'll run through the list and maybe cover some of the things he talked about. So we have Poe and the Falcon with his classic staples, Title, Engine, Ray Gunner, Contraband, Novice Tech, and Notorious. Kaz, the best 4 points in Resistance with Bucket, Title, Lone Wolf, Advanced Slam, and Contrabands. 9 Num in the T70 with Pattern, R6D8, the Friendship Predator, Elusive and Spare Parts, and Elo, the I5 Talon Rolling T70 with S-Foils, Predator, and M9G8, which is the locking reroll. So Duncan wrote up a little bit about this. I'm trying to find it here. I know he mentioned that M9G8 was always locking Poe and was core to his offense, that you're using Poe a lot for the repositions, and once you have a reroll and Ray, you have max hits pretty much whenever. Poe is horrific to pin down. Like sometimes you just get to kill Poe, but once he has Notorious on him, which makes him much scarier to shoot with the I6s, and he has rerolls and Ray, he can reposition, he can barrel roll and boost, and he's very hard to catch.
yeah, that's one of my pilots on my go fuck yourself list.
I love that Poe. What do you mean? Poe's great. He just does whatever he wants.
Yeah.
Andrew, did he say anything on why he put Notorious on Poe?
There's a lot of other I6s out there.
Yeah, and I know quite a few Poe players. It's like a big disagreement. Like, do you take Trick Shot or Notorious? I definitely wrote something down. I do like Notorious on Poe because it's very scary to other I6s. I don't know. I'm trying to find it in his paragraphs of text.
I think JJ is all aboard the trick shot train, and I'm Notorious.
Yeah, I think anything
depends on the list.
Incentivize an I6 shooting him. Like, it's pretty easy to just barrel up to Poe and put 4 hits into him. Like, there's a lot of ships in the game that can do that. But once they're now eating a strain for it, and if they're taking a shot back, that can be a disaster, and you just trade down.
I'm not sure about in this list, though, because Notorious is really good when you have lower initiative ships shooting after, like even if Poe is already shot. Like in the world's list, I had like an I2 and a couple I3s and I4 shooting after. So in this list, you got 2 5s and a 4, and it's a little bit sketchy.
I think honestly the 2 I5s on here with Ninum and LO being able to follow up on shots on a strained opponent right after they gain that strain at I5 gives it a little more chance to initiative kill something. Obviously, if it's like an I4 that shoots at Poe, you're more than likely not going to get that, or an I3, for instance. But if you're trying to take down the other opponent's I6 and they take that shot onto Poe before Poe gets to shoot, I mean, between having N9G8 to give Poe a reroll, Notorious also gives Poe another reroll as well, and that really just ups the accuracy of Poe's shots at I6 if he's shooting at I6, or at worst, it just helps Neen and LO to help take down that opponent, that other I6 if they do target Poe. So I can see the reason why it does work. So it just honestly, I think it just comes down to the preference for the player there. Trick shot can be really great as long as you have enough mods to do that. Obviously, having Ray available and M9G8 to affect at least 2 dice really helps with those trick shots, but you don't always end up getting it. So it's just a preference, I think. And in this choice, in this case, he did really well with it.
Yeah,
I think Duncan.
I have a couple of notes here that may clear some things up. So it sounds like contraband and spare parts on Poe were not used very much, and he only got into Hull once with Poe. So I assume Notorious was enough to scare people off from shooting Poe, which may be a mistake from his opponents, but if it worked, it worked. And then he also commented on really liking Temin with HLC and R68, but he knew his locals would be bringing higher initiative stuff. And that's why he settled on LO and Kaz, which ended up being, he said, the correct call for the lists he played against. But man, Tem's real fun. Tem's a lot of fun.
I love those. I love the look of those 3 ships. 9 with Kaz is gonna be double modded on offense or defense. Because he's going to have Lone Wolf. He's going to be focusing pretty much every turn.
I also feel like Duncan would put M9G8 onto Kaz, honestly, because that's what I would do in this list. I wouldn't put him on Poe.
I think Poe needs it more just because you want to prioritize the repo. You're not going to be getting the focus as much. So you will want the reroll and the force, plus anything that you get from Notorious.
Also, objective grabbing as well at I6.
Correct. But like Kaz and you can flame around and fix stuff with Bucket, which is very, very cool. Advanced Slam as well. That is a very mobile, very hard hitting Kaz where he can punish a lot of enemy ships as a blocker or just as someone who can outfly you. And then both of those T70s being able to get double modded shots fairly easily. Ella just needs to line up a bullseye, and 9 just needs someone else to line up a bullseye. And then both of those two have double modded shots at I5. I really love the offensive output of this list, and I think that's probably one of the reasons why it did so well. And if you kind of look at the mission points, and I think this is something that that I was noticing earlier, and I think we'll get to it once we talk about Nathan's list, is the mission points and how well you're playing 20 points. Duncan getting 69 mission points out of what looks like 4 games means that he's killing a lot of ships. He is going to 20. He is aiming to get to 20 almost every single game. Which shows that you've got a lot of firepower. And I guess a lot of the lists that have just a ton of health out there. That's a really good, really healthy list.
One other practical thing he noted was he always kept his arc side to side with Poe. And I see a lot more Han play recently. And a lot of people are taking that arc front to back. And it's almost always a mistake. There's very little... if you are new to big base Falcons because they're new and they're cheaper, look at your arc. If you're driving up the middle, if your arc is front for side to side, you can get a lot of those ships in the middle just by boosting, putting yourself in the right spot. Like your arc should almost always be side to side. If you bring Rack with Agile Gunner, whatever. But for like the Hans and the Pose of the world, it should be side to side. It'll probably stay side to side the whole game. If it's not, you're going to have to rotate at some point during the middle of the game, and that turn is going to be a disaster.
Ray is the exception for obvious reasons.
Sure, right.
But also,
Yeah.
that sucks for the scavenge one too, because that's a red rotate, and that's. I mean, you could do it while stressed, but that means you're double stressed.
Yeah.
All right. Shall we move on to the next store championship?
Do you want to cover Nathan's list?
We can. It breaks my rule, though.
Okay, yeah, you're right.
Okay.
Yep, we got a lot to go through.
That's fine. I was just going to note that was a list that in 4 games scored 46 points. I want to go through in Roll Better and look at some of those scores. That indicates that this list is that list is not good at shooting things, not good at objective play, or very slow. And I'd like to dive into those scores because that's averaging less than 12 points per game, and you still went 3-1.
That's great.
Yeah, I think the big thing is, I don't know, it's different because you have the 2 I6s and 2 I5s, and typically we aren't seeing Quick Draw as the other I6 in that list, which just must mean it's very tanky, I guess.
Oh, Nathan and Duncan took an ID in the last round,
Okay.
and both got 0 mission points for that. And then it looks like Duncan 20-0'd Nathan in the top 4. So that is probably what happened to those scores.
Okay, there you go.
Also, no outmaneuver Kylo. That's rough. It's an interesting take.
Don't hate it.
All right, let's move on to the next store champ that we have here. We have Dungeon Cat in Illinois. Looks like they had 4. They did not play a top cut, which is what kind of messed me up because I guess that other store champ played the top cut. So it seems like it's not universal whether they're doing top cuts or not per store championship. So in this one, we had the top 2 lists were Empires. So I guess JJ, good job there. Just kidding. JJ really it's nothing fancy. But JJ, why don't you cover kick in aces? I don't know if that's supposed to be a play on kicking asses.
Yeah, so we got Galactic Empire list here. Starting off the list, we got the Battle Yavin Dart, along with Soontir Fell, with Lone Wolf Crackshot and Targeting Computer. Then a Lone Academy TIE Fighter with Rack coming in as well, carrying Minister Tua, Seven Sister, Novus Technician, Proton Bombs, and the Dauntless title to round off that list. Obviously, having 2 I6s in the list, especially with Soontir Fell, that can double reposition, along with Rack being Rack, just that big base body that can go in and do some real damage there. Having Minister Tua to always pretty much guarantee that that Rack can have that reinforce, even if it's blocked, as long as it's not stressed, is really good. Seven Sister being able to jam opponents as well means that Rack can potentially get those crits through with his ability and the reinforce there. You can have this list firing on all cylinders, and it can do a lot of damage there. And then you can choose to try to face down that threat in Rack and Vader and Soontir. Meanwhile, you got an Academy pilot side just going around the edges, just grabbing objectives as need be, and it makes for a very formidable list.
Yeah, I don't know. This list kind of feels weird too. I wonder, so they had 86 mission points, so it must just be because they kill things.
Yeah, I'd imagine that you kill a lot of things here with Vader and Soontir being able to focus in on a single target if they're doing that, or you can split them up, and Rack just helps deliver that extra punch with his ability if you're able to get the shields down with the other 2 ships. So yeah.
And Tua is so greedy on Rack to me.
Yeah, I would.
Like, if you bump, you have the Dauntless title. You can reinforce regardless, and that's just like, you could just roll up, take a lock, and then red reinforce if you're like damaged or something. It just seems kind of not a waste of 4 points, but like other things you could do better.
Is there like a cutoff there, or like is that not part of the list? Because I'm seeing like a line of text underneath Rack.
That's his list. The other part says this list has no obstacles.
Oh, okay.
I didn't think you wanted to see that.
Oh, that's fine. Generally, I like Tua on Rack, just because if you don't get blocked, and like you're like eventually you're going to be in a spot where it's like, all right, we've got an open lane. We're just going to be patrolling here for the rest of the game. And on those turns where you don't get blocked, then you are able to rotate to where you want, and then you get the reinforce, or you can lock and then reinforce. And it's really, really helpful. Generally, I see a lot of people run E-Baffle, so that way the stress isn't ever limiting you if Rack suddenly no longer becomes like a threat. Like your opponent realizes, all right, we've damaged Rack to a point. It's not going to be worth it to kill him. So they just stop shooting at you. You can start using E-Baffle on yourself to get Rack back into the fight. But I think Novice Tech is the 2 points that generally is where E-Baffle goes. And I still really like Novice Tech on Rack. Fixing those crits is very helpful.
I know we all love proton bombs, but I think you gotta bite the bullet and just take agile and drop something down. Like it's 1 point. It's so huge, and you do telegraph pretty hard with the decimator where you're going, but sometimes they just can't stop you. It is absolutely worth the 1 point. You got to just find it there. Just take agile gunner.
The only thing I can think of is that they didn't want to destroy the obstacles they brought like agile size fix. That's the only thing I can think of. But also you have like another crew slot, so you just bring a different crew instead of a bomb. I don't know.
I don't know. The list didn't include any obstacles, so I don't know. I mean,
well, I think Andrew, to your point, I think the proton bombs was suggested. It's like a suggestion GSP was talking about. So somebody mentioned to me, GSP was talking about putting proton bombs on decimators on the last episode.
It's good because people will just chase your decimator to get range 1, which is totally reasonable, and so you can bombs are very effective on them, like fire sprays. People chase them to get the kill, so it's worth having a bomb. It's just agile gunner is so useful all the time that it's worth put the squeeze in, figure out how to make this work with agile gunner.
I mean,
I think you get rid of Minister Tour, right? There you go.
I like
this
to
fixes that.
I like to.
So
I mean, you can just run agile gunner and seismic charges, right?
Right, yeah, that's what I was saying, but I'm not sure if you wanted to blow up the obstacles with like Soontir or Invader being.
You could run concussion missiles too, or concussion bombs if you'd rather.
To Christ.
yeah, but then one block and boom,
Yeah.
But it's a lot worse for them than you. Like ion bombs too. It's probably a lot worse for whoever's chasing you than for you.
Yeah. I mean, look at it this way. Oh no, Rack doesn't get a green die because you have a strain. Like, what do you care? You don't have a strain. You don't have it at the green die anyway. So it's not like we're flying Callus here. Like I understand the logic with Callus not wanting that strain, but in this one, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have concussion bombs, it now forces your opponent to make unoptimal plays if you're going to run bombs, because it's shitting out another bomb next turn. So it's
when Rack gets blocked. So he's just eating face down damage cards.
Yeah. Hey, that's how you get Tua working.
Yeah, there you go. Just drop one concussion bomb, hit it yourself, and now you have Tua.
Oh my god. Okay. All right. There you go. Good lord. Good lord, you're killing me here. All right. Crispy, what does John Babis flying?
Yeah, so this is the starter set Vader at 6 for the standardized loadout. Then you have Boy, Backstabber, and Mauler Mythal. Then you have Captain Faroff in the TIE Reaper with Disciplined, Captain Hark, Targeting Computer. And then Tomax Bren, the lone bomber of this list, with Saturation Salvo, Barrage Rockets, and Bomblet Generator. So lots of 3-die guns. They're going to be rolling a lot of attack dice.
On Faroff. Why? You
got 2 points left over, and it's not bad.
I mean, a lot of people are going to be gunning for Backstabber, Mauler Mythal, or Tomax first.
Yeah, Faroff's going to outlive a lot of those.
And so Yeah, you'll be able to get good locks if you're not stressed. Or I mean, you could barrel roll. You could barrel roll with a Reaper. And since you are I3, you're generally going to be shooting later in the engagement phase compared to every other ship on the board. So it's a good opportunity for you to, for your opponent to just go after, chase down a ship. They'll kill it early, and then Feroff is the last ship in the round, and Feroff is going to be able to get a lock and be able to shoot.
Yeah, I'm assuming you're running Feroff and Tomax pretty close together at that point.
I think you run it differently. I think the correct way to run them is to run the Tomax behind the boys, because the bomber's easy to kill and is just better at range 3. Like, the bomber's best range is 3, and when you throw the boys, who are very good at getting to range 1, out in front of them as a screen, you now make the bomber a lot harder to get to because it feels like easy points, but you can say, oh, fight me first.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure. Like, target priority here is you're not like, you can go after Tomax, but if they do it right, like, you're it's not worth your time to get 3 points out of Tomax.
Mm-hmm.
Now, question to you guys, with the Empire getting a lot more good 3-point ships in the Empire, do you think that, with Merrick still coming down to 4, as well as Juno still being able to 4, you think they're viable replacements for Backstabber and Mauler to be like those other aces that can go in and do damage? Or you think that that the combo Backstabber and Mauler is worth it over the other X1s?
And JJ, you love your just Mauler Vader combo so much.
I do. It's just, for me, it's like, sometimes, a bad crit chain can really disable it, and you don't always want to run Mauler with Darth Vader, sometimes, just depending on the situation in the game, or you're not able to, just do like bombs or positioning or bumps and stuff. So sometimes having a self-sufficient ace can really help deal with that type of situation. So just curious on your thoughts on other 4-point chips.
I just think people can't list build, so if they see Maul bringing Backstabber, because they're like, this works perfectly.
Yeah, I mean,
I have Vader in there.
They're a 7-point unit. Like, you bring them together. I love flying them. I think it's fun to have scary, fast TIE fighters, but their time on target is bad, and they're very predicated upon initiative killing, and they're very variance prone. So if they get bad variance on either side, they lose their value quickly. And with the higher initiative in the meta right now, they lose their initiative killing, which means their defense goes down. And I just don't trust them. Like, it's not like one blank out with one of the boys and you don't get an initiative kill, and now they take a range 1 back. And now they've lost a lot of their value when you can take someone like Merrick or Juno, who is happy to float on their own, can take a hit a little better because of the shields and the extra health, doesn't have the tether. I'm not flying the boys right now, even though I enjoyed flying them for many months.
Yeah, I think the tether is really the biggest thing. Because, like, if you kill one, the other's output drops dramatically. When in any other instance, you can have 2 ships in Empire that both run independently and will both throw 3 dice every turn. Like, you could just put another 3-point bomber in there with barrage rockets, and he will shoot very well. I mean, like, you could just make Mauler and Backstabber Jonas and Reimer, and now you have a whole bunch of 3-die guns across the board that are now all double modded. And sure, you might lose one early on, but that, like, and like what Andrew was talking about, the variance, you can lose either of those ties in like 2 good shots. Like, it's possible. Meanwhile, the bombers are more likely to eat up more shots. Like they have a higher floor for the amount of shots that they'll take compared to the ties. And I think if that's something that you want to value, especially in sort of the lower initiatives where you want to maximize the number of shots that they're taking in that are, not going towards the rest of your squad. And then, you're only losing a 3-pointer out of all that. And then you're responding with a hailfire dice.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I agree with you on that one. I don't know. It was fun to run the boys when you could, but now it kind of feels like we've evolved a little bit past that. point. But I would say let's not scoff at it because I do think it still does quite a bit of output damage.
I think they're good in the right list if you use them.
Yeah, and I think people do need to be very cautious when flying against them because they can do the damage needed. It's just if you know how to fly against it, it's kind of like I don't know. How about this? I find them unfun to fly. There you go. I'm just gonna say it. I found them boring to fly. But I find flyers phrase, and if Greg were here, he'd tell me I'm a coward. So, all right. So let's move on to the last store chant before we get into the Pride of Mandalore. This one is out of Spain from Kingdom War Games, and so there was whoever was number one dropped before the cut. So they did 2 rounds of cut. The first player dropped. We're not going to cover his list because he dropped. I feel bad, but we're just going to cover the list for the ones that actually played in the finals. And we have, and I don't know how to say any of these names, so I'm not going to even try to say.
Colirio Collapso.
There you go. Alex, tell us what the top list that won the cut, what does he have?
Oh, it's a list after my own heart here. I love this.
This is the Sean list.
So he had Oddball, the SOC Oddball, SOC Wolf, 7B Mace with Heightened Perception, R4B 17. Nothing too crazy there. He had Click in the V-Wing with dedicated R3 Synchronized Council because you have 1 point over and you have nothing better to do. And then you had the 2.0 Z95s with dedicated. And it meets the threshold of having 3 dedicated, so your list can actually function. I love it.
And I do think this is kind of the stable list with Mace coming down to that 5 points opens up a different set of list building in Republic. And this list has both of the 2 point clones, and so the question becomes: would you replace those clones with a 4 point ship, like another Arc, or I don't know what else is 4 points that you can run, or an Ada
Anakin?
How about an Anakin? How about Anakin Skywalker?
The question is, replace Wolf with Anakin and keep the Z's, but it's my style preference.
Yeah. I like the list. I think the list has some legs, but outside of, Wolf, your initiatives are pretty bleak here comparatively.
You just got a bunch of 4s. They're all 4s. Boost is a 3 and Oddball's a 5. But the bulk of your list, the 4 ships are 4s. You're gonna get out initiative on everything, but you have a couple arcs. You just do it right. And the runner-up was Hair. I'm going to call him Hair. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. Hair Doctor. Andrew, tell it. All right. I wanted to cover this list because it's a 3-ship Empire list, and I thought it was a little. This one feels a little out there. But Andrew, tell us what these 2 decimators are going to be doing.
Yeah. So we got Boy Vader, Rack, and Mornaki. So we all know Boy Vader. Then we have Rack with Enduring, Death Troopers, 000, Agile Gunner, Proton Bombs, and Title. And then Morna with Enduring, Seven Sister, Moff Dirge-Rod, and Agile. So Dirge-Rod's the one who boosts you. 000 gives yourself calcs. Death Troopers prevent you from removing stress during activation at range 1 of the ship. So what they're almost certainly doing is diving the 2 decimators into the middle of the board, forcing a lot of stress focuses and stress maneuvers, or they're leaving you tokenless if you choose not to take it. And if you don't have, a 3 hard I think 3 hard may not even clear. I think it's a 5 straight, maybe the only one that clears Death Troopers. You're just going to be stuck stressed. And then the next important thing is you play as slowly as possible. And you never get to 20 points.
There you go.
You play 4 rounds, which, as evidenced by the screenshots here, we did not get to 20 points at any point. So you never win the game. You just let the game end while your opponent is constantly stressed, and maybe you kill a ship or two.
It's very difficult to decide whether or not I want to agile gunner, let alone on 2 ships. I don't know where I'm going next round.
I'm sorry, the game's over. It's the end phase, not planning phase. We can't play another round.
000 Death Troopers is dirty, though.
Yeah, this list is silly. I mean, I know you just go kill a decimator and then you're done with it. It's not gonna be fun. I don't know. I think you scenario hard against it. Enduring is really funny because I think you all probably know, but with a reinforce, Enduring will cancel a crit before a hit. The reinforce adds an evade, so it works in that way, which is kind of cute.
Because I can't bullseye a decimator to save my life.
Oh, it's
so hard.
In case you can't bullseye the deci.
True.
I assume it's there because I took a crit. I just got to focus.
I do think it's odd he didn't go for or she maybe go for Oiken instead of Morna. I don't know what the loadout values look like.
I like Morna. I'm not gonna lie.
I assume that's a guy.
Especially in a list that needs nothing to die, like requires nothing to die. I would much prefer Morna.
Yeah.
Wait, so does this list have legs? Is this just kind of one of those weird one-off type things? I mean, we had double decis before, and I don't know. I in this meta, it kind of feels like it kind of feels like you could just take them off the board, I guess.
Yeah, I think it takes a certain type of person to enjoy playing this, and that person is not me, and that person also I think is not very common. And when I am preparing for a tournament, I am never going to plan for this list because I think people aren't going to take it. And so I think it's like kind of dumb, and probably I may lose to it because I don't prepare for it, but I'm just not going to, the limited free time I have playing X-Wing, I'm not going to spend it preparing for double Decivator.
So you're telling me, Andrew, you're telling me when I come to the Planning Phase Syndicate Showdown 2 and you're going to be there, I should bring this list, maybe changing Enduring, because I don't understand that. I don't understand that.
I think you bring double decimator gauntlet. No one will be prepared.
Oh my god, double decimator gauntlet.
This is my side slipping gauntlet. Let me try to railroad this track as I hit your ship.
All right, I could bring double gauntlet, fire spray, and CIS. So, just saying, like it's probably better.
Yeah.
There's a pile of lists out there that will win games where if you played it twice back to back, you would definitely win the second game, but you probably won't win the first one. And that's not what I'm interested in playing. And I think that's probably what this list is that like, it's probably, especially in tournament setting, you're tired, you're not at 100% mental capacity. You can definitely lose a game to a list like this because you just weren't prepared. You just you made a mistake, turn 0 and you lost. But if you're ready for it, does it really have legs? I don't know. I don't think so. I don't want it to, at the very least.
Yeah, I don't strongly believe in double decimator Vader. Especially with these loadouts. Maybe if you switch out the loadouts, it might be, doable.
Yeah, I agree.
So does Enduring cancel the crit from the proton bomb at all? Or is it only from an attack?
Enduring is
Only
when
from
you
attack.
defend.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, all right. Well, I think all right, we're done with Star Chance. That list just breaks my mind, I guess. I don't own 2 decimators. Well, actually I do. I have one in a box I've never opened. If anybody wants to buy one. I don't ever plan on running double decimators. I don't know. It's not my style, I guess. I play too much CIS. But
I wish
from
you were
there
around for 1.0. All of Michigan was playing rack. It was great. It was like the entirety of Michigan. Just everyone ran rack, Kylo. It was fantastic.
back in the good old days. Is that what you're going to tell us?
I almost made the Michigan Discord logo like
No,
the
stop.
decimator instead
Nope.
of an X-wing.
No, stop it. It's about, like, everybody tells me about how bad or how awesome defenders were in 1.0, but
Yeah, it was disgusting.
like, whatever. Like, they don't exist in 2.0, so I don't care.
Better.
All right, so let's move on to the Child of Mandalore. You're all welcome to stay if you want. You could drop if you don't want to go over it, but I think we want to go through Child of Mandalore scenario.
I'm gonna head out, but thank you for having us. It was a pleasure.
Absolutely, man. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm also gone. Take care,
All
guys. Thank you.
Take care.
Have a good night, everyone. All right. So let's move into the Child of Mandalore scenario. JJ, you wanted to cover this. Is that Children of Mandalore, is it?
Yeah, it's Children of Mandalore. Yeah.
Why the
correct.
hell
That's
do I
the
keep
same.
saying Pride of Mandalore then?
Because Pride of Mandalore was the where the gauntlet and all the Fang Fighters and stuff came out for that, so that's why.
Pride Month, that's why.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. There you go. It's
So
confusing.
this is a new scenario or store scenario pack, I guess, that's coming out soon here, and maybe some of your local shops or stores will be running this event here. I know that mine here will be running this July 1st over here. So wanted to take a look at this pack here and kind of take a look at it because it does give you a new way to list build here. So there's two different scenarios on here, and they run kind of similar to what we've seen before, but it does have a few twists on here for the game here. So the first one that we have here is called Best Card Recovery. For squad building, during the squad building, you're going to determine which of the two players are going to be the aggressor and the protector, and each player builds a squad up to 20 points. And the squad has to include at least one non-limited ship, aka a generic that's not pipped. And during the squad building, they choose that generic essentially to become a Child of Mandalore, which means that ship gains the Mandalorian keyword, and it also gains a missile slot and an additional 10 loadout points. And they ignore the upgrade slot requirements for Mandalorian key build award. So in other words, let's say you have a Y-wing that you choose to be the Child of Mandalore. That Y-wing can now equip Beskar armor or Mandalorian optics, or run clan training if they have a talent slot on that ship as well. So the scenario here has two sides. The aggressor is trying to stop the protectors from recovering Beskar caches, where the protectors are trying to recover as many caches as possible. Now the setup here is a little bit different than what we normally see for, like, for instance, like salvage mission here. Essentially, the scenario marker, the central one is placed in the center, just like normal, and then each other Beskar is placed at range beyond range 2 from the neutral edge, and beyond range 1 from the other Beskar caches there, and then obstacles are placed as normal. So kind of very similar to the scramble transmission, and same type of scenario victory conditions. You got to have 20 points or more in order to win the game, or the 12th round ends. So what's different about this one here is that at the start of the system phase, if the aggressor has any Beskar caches in their reserve, they must place them one at a time at range 4 from all other player edges, and beyond range 1 of any other Beskar caches. Now, in addition to the Child of Mandalore title that generic gets, they also get a condition card they can assign to them. They can either have a traditional war, which allows them when they perform an attack during the modified dice step, they can spend one of the 3 charges to reroll one of their blank results, and those charges cannot be recovered. Or they can have the tradition of peace, where while you defend during the modified attack dice step, they can spend a charge, and they do, the attacker must reroll one of the crit or hit results of their choice. And again, you have 2 non-recurring charges for that there. Now, very similar to salvage, you can perform a tow action during your perform action step to take a Beskar cache if you are the protector, trying and bring it onto your ship there. While you're towing in Beskar cache, you cannot reposition. Essentially, you can't do any barrel rolls, boosts, cloak actions, or slam actions, or gain cloak tokens. And if you do suffer a crit, of course, you got to jettison that crate out there. So one of the added features for this particular scenario is the deliver action. So if a ship that's towing a Beskar cache performs a deliver action, if it is range 0 to 1 of its own board edge, if it is not stressed, they can remove the Beskar cache from their ship card and score mission points according to the scoring rules. then the aggressor takes the deliver best card cache and places it in reserve, which at the beginning of the following turn, they get to place that back on the board there. And only the ships, only ships controlled by the protectors can perform deliver actions, obviously, since they're the ones trying to get it there. Now, the scoring on this is actually really interesting because if the protector earns 1 additional points, if the ship that is towing that best card cache has the condition card Traditional War or Traditional Peace. So that means that you can end up potentially getting 2 scenario points for delivering it. And while a friendly ship performs a deliver scenario action, the protector earns 3 mission points as well. So that's even more points there. So this can actually accelerate the game, and it makes that ship that's carrying that crate even more important for you to go get that there. The protectors also earn 2 additional points if the ship that performed deliver action had been assigned one of those conditions there. Now, on the opposite side, the ships that are trying to go after the protectors to prevent them from scoring there, they earn a mission point if their ships that's towing a best card cache had been assigned that tradition, a peace, and Traditional War. And when one of the aggressors' attacks causes an enemy ship to jettison a best card cache, the aggressor earns 2 mission points. And if the aggressors earn 1 additional point if the defender was assigned a Traditional War or Traditional Peace there. So if your opponent is going for that big score and you manage to get that crit through to make sure that they drop that cache there, that's pretty huge. You're able to get even more points to do that there. And then additionally, for destruction, when a ship is destroyed or removed from play, the imposing player earns mission points equal to the squad point of that destroyed ship, just like normal. But if that destroyed ship had the condition card for Traditional War or Traditional Peace, the opposing player earns 3 additional mission points there. So if you have a ship that costs like 7 mission points and it's a generic and it had that there, you could potentially earn 10 points just from killing that one ship.
I'm going to stop you for a second. These would have been very important when we were building lists earlier, because that's crazy. You don't want to put that on a Fang fighter, right? Like, oh no, here it goes. Here's a Fang fighter that has all this other stuff. I don't know. Like, that seems crazy to me. Like, oh, let's put it on a gauntlet. Okay, no problem, right? But on a Fang fighter, I don't know.
So it depends, right? Because you want a little bit of both, right? You want a high agility ship that can potentially evade shots, but at the same time, you want them to be tanky enough to not get killed, right? And if you're a generic fighter, which tends to be lower initiatives, if you're at range 1, I gotta say, Fang fighters do pretty well. They have a token, and at range 1 with Concordia face off, I mean, they can be that tank, right, at range 1. So it just really depends on how you set yourself up for that delivery.
So here's my Soontir Fell, range 2, bullseye.
Exactly. Yeah. There you go. Crack shot.
Crack shot. Yeah. I don't know. Like, maybe we're just trying to break this scenario too hard. I don't know, Alex. I mean, you're shaking your head too. Fang fighters seem silly, right?
I just don't believe Fang fighters in general right
now.
But
all right. Well, Jesus Christ, you're killing me here.
But no, do you know what you put? No, we'll get to that when we do list building.
All right. So this feels like an enhanced version of salvage. Am I incorrect in that? Like, yeah, that's kind of what this feels like.
Yeah, it's definitely an enhanced version of salvage. Absolutely.
And I'm not opposed. I'm not opposed to it. And you did not go over the Tradition of War, Tradition of Peace cards.
Yeah, that's when you perform an attack, you can spend a charge to modify, or rather to reroll one of your blank results with Traditional War. Or for Tradition of Peace, you can spend a charge to reroll a crit or hit result from your opponent, and you only get 2 charges for that one.
Yeah, that one almost feels better, right? Because like every time they roll a crit, you just reroll it.
Yeah, if you're an aggressor too, right, you want to probably use the reroll one, right, for offense. And if you're the one the protector, you're trying to definitely avoid those crits. So yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Another quick question. So in the case of crack shot, right, does Tradition of Priest trigger first before crack shot?
Yeah, because crack shot would be during the neutralized results.
Oh, crack shot's even after. The crack shot is basically the last thing you do.
Yeah.
Okay. So you would be able to say, okay, let's say you roll like 2 hits and a crit. You'd be able to go, all right, I'm going to make you re-roll that crit. It re-rolls into a blank. You can't re-roll that dice. Then they would have to choose if they have some other way to re-roll. They could, or they could crack shot your evade or whatever, if they wanted.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. I like that. Can I have that in standard? I want that in standard now. What do I got to do? AMG, give us this in standard. All right. So that was the first scenario, right?
Yeah, exactly. Now the other scenario is called cargo disruption. Now this
right.
one here.
So hold on, I'm going to stop you though.
Go ahead.
Because we got lists, right? And to me, it seems smarter instead of spending the next 15 minutes of you reading all the other stuff for the other scenario. While we have the scenario fresh in our mind, can we go over the list that you have associated? With the first one. All right. Tell me which list to pull up, and that's what we got.
I will go down the line here. So the first one here was Rebels here. So this one is a 20-point list here with Rebels. Now, I had a hard time choosing a generic that I wanted to run with this one here, mainly because there wasn't a plethora of options that I thought would work very, very well for this one here. So sadly, the Rebel Gauntlet is pipped. So it does not count as being the non-limited ship for this particular scenario, sadly. So I went with the Lothal Rebel here in the VCX here. Now it comes with 8 loadout points. You do get 10 additional points on here, as well as a missile slot. I went with dorsal turret, homing torpedoes, and then Ezra gunner to fill out that extra slot there for the gunner there, bringing it to a total of 18 loadout points for this one here. Being able to double tap with the after primary shot with Lothal Rebel at initiative 2, especially if you're going after a particular ship that has that crate, you're going to have a pretty good chance of damaging it severely or possibly getting a crit through, especially if the rest of your list is able to do damage ahead of time. Another good objective grabber that I think is worth mentioning here is Sabine Wren, just being able to position herself in a better way to grab a crate and run towards her edge, especially having a 5 straight. I think that's a really great asset for her, and having Beskar reinforced plating to help her survive that initial joust is really good. I did have Kiobenzi in this particular list here with proton rockets just to try to scare somebody away, or at least distract them from grabbing my other objective carriers, but also another great candidate to grab the Beskar and run. Wedge Antilles here, I went for a Predator and marksmanship just because I do want to make sure that I have a ship that can reliably push those crits through, especially with Wedge being able to reduce the agility of potential Beskar carriers and get those crits through. And then, of course, Luke Skywalker with the Battle of Yavin version with instinctive aim and proton torpedoes. Really great way to just throw out a torpedo out there if you just happen to not have a lock on them, and proton torpedoes generates that crit automatically there. And Luke with attack speed, a 4 straight boost is really good, really fast, allows Luke to get into the fight really fast and get some points.
So, what if you swapped out Wedge? What if you swapped out Wedge for, I don't know, a Y-wing that can ionize? And I only ask that question, right, because if you're ionizing them, you can stop them from
running.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's possible. I mean, I would look to golly, what's that 3-point Y-wing? Horton Psalm, I believe, would probably be my choice, just because it's 3 points. You're able to get the ion on there, the ion turret on there, and you got 2 points to either put in R4 Astromech if you want to, or you could put in Tifron Belling Run if you want to just ignore some of the obstacles there and still shoot off your cannon, or you got different options on there. I think that would probably be a good choice for that, being at I4 and having that ion cannon.
All right. The next list you have is a scum list. Is this also a recovery list or no?
Yes, this is also a recovery list here. So this one here, I was really undecisive. I couldn't really decide like which one I thought would be the better one to go with, but I ended up staying with the ST-70 assault ship, generally known as the Razor Crest, as my ship here. So this one here would get 20 loadout points here. So I filled this one out here with Fenral and Han Gunner, as well as Contraband Cybernetics to round out that list. Now, I chose out that particular loadout there because the timing for Han Gunner and Fenral are the same, so you can essentially get a red focus, then use Fenral to remove that stress if you happen to go faster than a full stop. And that allows the auto rim enforcer to either take a target lock if they happen to have somebody ahead of time and be double modded, or take another action if they need that, assuming that they're not stressed already. I loaded this out with Lima Kai with targeting synchronizer and ion cannon. This helps activate Captain Seavor's concussion missiles in the event that he's not able to get a lock there. Being an I-5 and able to potentially outmaneuver somebody out the side. You can get that target lock for Lima Kai, shoot somebody with an ion, keep them slow, and that could set up a potential kill shot for Seaver with concussion missiles. Dirge also be an I-5 with a boost and proton cannons. This is a really good hunter, along with Cad Bane, just being able to generate those crits with proton cannons, and Cad Bane with Zuckuss, able to pass off that stress if he does hit with that proton cannon, can really limit the dial of any carrier that wants to run away. And then, of course, Seavor being able to jam opponents as well. I think this is a solid list.
All right. So can I be picky, a little bit picky?
Sure. Go ahead.
And tell you I disagree with the Zuckuss piece.
What would you put in for a Cad?
I just feel the Zuckuss. I like contraband and I like proton cannons a lot. Personally, I think both of those do a decent, let's say, a decent job, right? I think the bigger thing is if you have that 6 points, right? You could run another illicit. You could run FTC, though that's not my style. You could run overtuned if you would like overtuned for the extra stuff. And with Cad's ability, you could get rid of the strains after you shoot. So you could, let's say you only use 2 out of the 3 strain. If you don't want to clear it next round, you just have to be able to shoot initiative wise. Otherwise, you get that 6 points you could put into a talent slot, right?
Right.
And with that, I don't know. Like, to me, I would almost be putting marksmanship and either thermals or protons bombs.
I do marksmanship Lazrazi because Lazrazi really helps with the survivability of Cad Bane, and it's not hard for people to be stressed.
That's true. Yeah.
All right.
Like, I just played a game recently with Cad Bane with Lazrazi, and I think I saved like 4 health in just one game, just because they were stressed.
I think that's fair. I do agree with you. I think that's kind of fair if we're looking at it. That way, like, it gives you that different options that I don't think we've seen before. Is Lazrazi really only 5 points?
Yep.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Lazrazi is 5. You put on marksmanship, you get more crit generation. You can use it with proton cannons. It's pretty nice.
Yeah, that's actually a very solid crew, I think. Yeah.
All right, we'll have to tell Zach about that.
Oh, he knows. Like, he's stealing one of my lists that has Cad Bane with Lazrazi in it.
Is he? I don't.
Yeah.
He didn't play that last week, so
No, not yet. He's gonna steal it.
all right. The next list, JJ, that you have is a Republic list.
Yeah, absolutely. So this one here, I went with, I was really debating between the Gauntlet and the Latch, and I think the Gauntlet ended up being unique, if I recall correctly. So I ended up just sticking with the lat here. So I went with the 212 Battalion Pilot, which normally only has 7 loadout points. With the additional 10, it will go up to 15. I went with an old classic here, Corky Kreese with C3PO and 5s, just being able to enable the rest of the list there, really letting the other ships like Rick Alley, which you can Daredevil, come in really fast to push in damage. Padme and Lumi always paired together very well, being able to limit the amount of focus results that your opponent can convert, and equipping Padme with homing torpedoes and R7A7 just to make sure they get those crits through on her attacks is also very, very good there. Contrail is there just to basically help as a defensive buff for the rest of the list there, and just be most likely the carrier for the best guard if they need to just run away and just help the rest of the list punish any pursuers. So yeah.
I do like it. I have a slightly different Republic list right under it that we'll talk about, but I like it. The defensive potential is really annoying, and then like offensively, just juking people with Padme is just kind of filthy.
Oh yeah,
where is the dedicated? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, you need more clones for it, so I mean, yeah.
All right.
Take off the shield upgrade, put on dedicated.
That was my first choice, and then I was like, okay, what am I going to do with 5 points and a mod slot? Like,
you put on Bash and ion bombs, so you have ion control.
Well, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah.
All right, the next list, Alex.
Yeah.
I see JJ didn't choose any of my lists, so it's okay.
So in this list, more of like the Beskar kind of recovery one. This is Obi-Wan. It's got marksmanship for the crits. It's got chopper for just defensive jamming. Hess and council because I have 1 point left over. And yes, we chose the same thing, the 212 lat. In my head, though, I can, now that I have 10 more points, I can finally put back on 7th Fleet Gunner for 5 points.
Yeah.
And then put on like clan training because you ignore requirements for Mandalorian things, so you can have novice tech, clan training, agile, defensive one, and 7th Fleet Gunner.
There is a clarification, I should say, for that, right, for that piece. So because you're ignoring the requirements in order for you to equip that doesn't mean that you just add it on. You still have to have that slot available on that ship. You just have to ignore the keyword Mandalorian on that particular upgrade. So
I would have Sync Council.
Yeah, Sync Council. Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I figured you got enough. You got a lot of crit generation in this list. You got 3 dedicateds, which is what you need. You got click for defense. You got, like I said, proton bombs. You got R7A7. You got marksmanship, and you have 7th Fleet Gunner.
Yeah.
So that's pretty spicy. I like it.
Yeah, I think it's hilarious that the two of you both chose 212 in that list.
Well, his is for a completely different role. Mine is just like, cool, I get 7th Fleet Gunner back.
I mean, I did for a hot second consider an ARC 170, but then I was like, I don't know if it will survive,
Or I could roll up with a lat that's reinforced and
and support the rest of the list. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So,
well, thank you, JJ, for not choosing any of my lists.
Sorry.
Like, hey, Tanner, make lists for everybody. I don't think you chose any of my lists.
Yeah.
But even the next scenario.
Yeah. Don't worry, I'll add them in if we want to go over the next one.
All right, I just got to find, where is the next one? What is it called?
It's Cargo Disruption, I believe.
There it is. I see it. All right, tell us about the second scenario in the pack of Children of Mandalore.
All right, so this one here is called cargo disruption scoring, or sorry, cargo disruption. Sorry. So for this one here, this one has a little bit of a asymmetric build in terms of list building here. So before squad building, the players have to determine who will be the aggressor and who will be the protector. Now, I will say the tournament or the event that we're going to have in our store here, we're going to do this as 3 separate rounds for this. So you do have to have an 18-point squad and a 23-point squad and a 20-point squad so that we can play all the different scenarios with your squad here. So for this one here, yep.
Quick question.
Yeah.
For your tournament, do you have to have the same faction or can you have different?
You can have different factions, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So for this one here, so beforehand, you have to determine who's going to be the aggressor because they have a squad limit of 23 squad points. And the protector player only gets 18 points for this one here. Same rules as the other one. They must include at least 1 non-limited ship, and during the squad building, each player may choose 1 limited ship to become a child of Mandalore. Same thing, they get an extra upgrade slot. They gain the Mandalorian keyword and 10 additional loadout value, and they get to ignore the upgrade slot requirements for the Mandalorian builder keyword. So for this one here, you're placing at the start of the place obstacle setup, the protectors, the ones that have the lower points, gets to place a hyperspace marker centered at range 3 from their player edge and at range 4.5 of both neutral board edges, as shown on the map there. Then the players place obstacles as described as normal, and they cannot be placed within range 1 of the hyperspace marker. Once that's done, the protector of the list with lesser points gets to place 5 cargo shuttle markers from the supply onto the board. And then at the end of setup, each player assigns a child of Mandalore traditional war or peace to their non-limited ship there. Now, in order for you to win this one here, same rules as normal, 20 points or 12 rounds once that ends there. Now, the scenario feature for this one is called cargo shuttle. So it basically acts as a remote, and we do have a pick of that later on a little further down, that are controlled by the protector. Each cargo shuttle is marked with a number 1 through 5, which corresponds to the damage tracker that comes with this particular scenario. And when the cargo shuttle suffers damage, instead of dealing a damage card, you just place a critical damage marker on the corresponding tracker to do that, so you don't have to basically cycle through your deck when you're going through that. When it has the equal amount of damage markers on it, it's destroyed, and the shield tokens for the shuttle are tracked on the tracker space as well for that one here. Now, on the front side, it'll have an arrow on it to start the activation phase. The protector must relocate every shuttle using either a speed 1 straight or bank or a speed 2 1 or bank, and if the cargo shuttle ends up using one of these speed 1 maneuvers, they can recover a shield in exchange for them going slower. So there is a little bit of strategy for you choosing to go slower versus fast there. At the end of the engagement phase, for each cargo shuttle, you choose 1 enemy ship at range 0 to 2 and roll 2 attack dice. If there are any hit or crit results, the chosen ship suffers 1 damage. And then when the cargo shuttle flees or is removed from play, it is returned to supply there.
So hold on. So when you roll that hit or crit, right? That's 2 dice. What's the probability on 1 dice?
50%, I'm going to say.
Yep.
Right?
Okay, so you still really only have... Okay, so you have a 50% chance of
suffering damage.
Yeah, you have 75% chance on 2 dice to suffer 1 damage.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, which is why the defending group has 23 points. You're most likely going to lose more ships because of these cargo shuttles than normal. So dispatching the shuttles at the start of each end phase. If there are 4 or fewer cargo shuttles in the play area, the protector must place 1 cargo shuttle into the play area. The shuttles placed into the play area so that its rear guides are flush against any side of the hyperspace marker. So essentially, they get to respawn after you destroy them. Now, scoring for this one. When a cargo, for the protectors, meaning the player with the lesser points, when a cargo shuttle flees, the protector earns 6 mission points for that. If the cargo shuttle flees from the protector's board edge, the protector does not earn any mission points. At the start of the end phase, so it has to be on the other side.
Yeah, because I was gonna say, if you look at when you said that,
Yeah.
I was looking through these and I was like, oh, range 3.
Hard turn.
All right. I'm pretty sure I could get that like every turn. That's 3 turns and I win. Like
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then at the start of the end phase, the Protector earns 1 mission point for each cargo shuttle in play that has 1 or more friendly ships or commando team remotes at range 0 to 1. So this is most likely the reason why the commandos probably went up in points in the last points update, because probably for this. So aggressor scoring: when a cargo shuttle is destroyed, the aggressor earns 6 mission points. So you can kill 4 of these and win the game. Pretty simple. When a ship is destroyed or removed from play, the opposing player earns mission points equal to the squad point value of the ship. So meaning you earn points against other enemy ships as normal. And if the destroyed ship had the condition card of traditional war or peace, that opposing player earns 3 additional points to that for that particular ship. So again, if you have a 7-point generic and your opponent kills that ship, that's 10 points right there. Easy peasy.
this is just the card then that we had seen before.
Exactly. Yeah. All right. So let's take a look at some of these, some of the lists here that we have on here.
This is your 18 points.
Yeah.
And
so
this is your Empire list. You have Magma Tolvin with squad leader, Jamie Beam, and targeting computer. Why you have targeting or Jamie Beam on there is beyond me.
just to fill it in.
Literally have nothing else to do.
Well, why not electronic? All right. Anyway, that's fine. I get it.
Targeting computer.
Yep, I get it. Yep.
For squad leader. Yep.
And then you have Gideon Hask in the Interceptor with disciplined, elusive, and targeting computer. And the question becomes is why not use Crackshot instead?
Well, if you're able to use Magna to coordinate to Gideon Hask, and he has somebody in Arc, you're able to essentially coordinate a target lock for Gideon Hask, and then on his turn, he can get a focus token as normal there. And I wanted to make sure that this had a little more staying power since, interceptors can pop. So I wanted to make sure that that they had some defensive mods with elusive being there to help out there.
All right, fair enough. You have Fifth Brother with the homing missiles and FCS, which we've seen before, and then a Gauntlet with Mando Optics, Swiveling, Rig Cargo Chute, which I love, Seismics, which I love even more, and
then
Tarkin
with
and Notorious.
Exactly, yeah. With those 10 additional points, you can fit in Notorious and Tarkin. And if you're not familiar with Tarkin, essentially during the system phase, you're able to first trigger Mandalorian Optics. You can lock an object with that, and then you can trigger Tarkin, allowing the rest of your list to acquire a lock on that ship that you had just locked with Mandalorian Optics. This really helps set up everybody else to be double modded as needed for this one here. And you can do a lot of work with that there. Notorious is there to help discourage people from shooting your ship, your gauntlet fighter in there, so that way they can at least survive a little bit there. Because again, if you're able to kill this gauntlet fighter, that's going to be 10 points for your opponent. So kind of to make them discouraged from killing that particular ship, I felt Notorious would probably be a better choice for that.
Rig Cargo Chute went down to 3 points.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Man, who thought that was a good idea?
Yeah.
God, we got to pull Eamon back out.
Yes.
Oh, that was my favorite ship during earlier. Anyway.
Oh yeah, man.
Anyway, sorry. Oh, God. 3-point Rig Cargo Chute. So good. So good.
Yeah, absolutely. So so let's go on to the next list here. So this one is a first order list that I came up for this one here. Now this one here was an aggressor list. This one builds up to 23 points here. So the generic that I came up with, I actually had a hard time deciding on here. The first order Has a couple of ships that are could be worthwhile for generics. I originally thought a C class shuttle, but if I wanted this to go fast and really get into the mix, I actually decided on the first order bomber instead for this one, because it does have that system phase boost, and you can do a 4 straight, so you can really cover a lot of ground on there. So I equipped this one here since it has 17 loadout points. I gave it blazer bomb, deuterium fuel cells, and Beskar plating, as well as seismic charges to go along with the blazer bomb. So you can essentially a 1 turn drop a blaze bomb, and then the follow-up turns after the bomb explodes and it leaves the blaze there, you can set up a seismic charge to blow that up later as well if you wanted to do that. And since it's very big, you have a very big area effect for that bomb once it comes out there. Joining that list here, we got the TIE Whisper version of Kylo Ren with Malice, concussion, missiles, and advanced optics. Midnight with Tarkin Synchronizer, Marksmanship, Fanatical. Malorus with cluster missiles, and then Lieutenant Gaelic with ion cannon and biohex script codes, and then Quick Draw with Fanatical, Proud Tradition, Special Forces Gunner, deuterium fuel cells, and fire control system to round off that list there.
So I think I would take Midnight, and I would take Midnight and have squad leader for the coordinate, just personally. That's just me, though.
Do you think having 2 impossible coordinate ships in the list is worth it?
Yes.
Coordinate the coordinate.
Because Midnight does, without the missile slot, Midnight's a 2-dice gun. It's not, Midnight's not an effective aggressor. Like, if you're gonna put, you could put Scorch in that list instead, right? Like, or DT. Probably Scorch. You probably put Scorch over DT. Though I like DT better personally, but I think you just put Scorch in there, and to me, that if you want the offense, it's Scorch. If you want the coordinator, some of me thinks having 2 coordinators in that list is probably okay. I think.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because Lieutenant is Gaelic going to coordinate every turn?
No.
It's only when somebody
but if one
dies.
of your ships fall. Yeah,
so
exactly.
Midnight then becomes your guaranteed coordinator every turn. And so you if the other option to me is you could get rid of that first order candidate, like if you don't want the Z shuttle, and that's your coordinator, and then Midnight essentially becomes Scorch. I just don't think Midnight puts out enough damage personally. And Midnight's value is the coordination, and because it can help. I mean, can you imagine a Lieutenant Gaelic with a target lock, and a focus for ion cannon, and then whatever the hell you're shooting at just sits there? I don't know. Like, that seems pretty good to me. Or you could give Malorus. You essentially can make Malorus not have to spend Malorus charges during it, because you could give Malorus a focus and a target lock, and then Malorus has the ability to do what Malorus wants to do and can save Malorus charges for later, right? And then Malorus is a more effective gun in the end game, or survivable piece in the end game with charges at the end. But that's just me.
Yeah.
I kind of want to run this list anyway.
All right, so going on to the next list here. This one is, I believe,
Alex.
Alex's list. Yeah.
Yes, this is an 18-point list. So I figure we need a generic, right? So we just put a Falcon in there.
Yeah.
You know, it's got 10 extra points. You can, put useful things on there. You can put like a shield upgrade. You can have barrage rockets because it gains the missile slots. So you can have your arc to the side and have barrage rockets out the front.
That's gross.
Yeah, pretend you're, the resistance bomber, except for you're actually useful and good.
And then equip it with Beskar.
Yeah.
Hold on one second. So if you put Ray, right, and you put barrage rockets on there, you still have 4 points left, right?
Yeah, you can have like Mando optics and like a 1-point Talon.
Or
Yep.
recline training if you want.
Oh my
Well,
god.
Yeah, you can
I
do
don't
that
know
as
about
well.
that. I don't. Yeah, I guess.
I mean, I'd probably do something like Beskar,
Yeah, best car.
just in case you have someone in your front arc. But there's a lot of stuff you can mess around with there. It's kind of silly. Also, you have Snap Wexley, the HLC R68. Kaz, just enduring with bucket. You take the fuel leak, you flip it up, you cancel it with enduring. It's a bunch of silly things you can do with that. But Tally does not specify friendly ship or anything. Tally says when you bullseye someone, the defender rolls an extra die. And if your defender's a shuttle, it's still a defender. It's not a ship or anything like that. It's not friendly. It's not limited to that. So you actually get to roll 2 dice with your ship if you really wanted to, which is why I have Tally in there over their plethora of 4-point ships I could have put in there. Kind of silly. And I love me some ion
I like
control.
the Tally in this type of build. I think Tally's really good.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah. I just noticed, there's like a little bit of a loophole there. Kaz can be very frustrating. He can live a lot longer than you want him to, especially when everyone else is such high initiative nowadays. And then also you have a Falcon. Like they can shoot at the Falcon all day they want, by all means. You're sinking a lot of ships to get that extra bonus points for that.
Now, when Kaz is attacking the cargo shuttle, he doesn't get the additional die, right? Since they don't have an initiative, right?
Well, this is the protecting list.
Oh yeah, that's right. Protectors. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, so he doesn't care.
But
he
yeah,
doesn't care. Yeah.
I would assume he doesn't.
He doesn't care.
Yeah, this is for protecting it. So I think that's just a little sneaky little. I mean, if you really wanted to, I guess you could run 4 3s with this list, but I think that's just worse than running 3 4s, especially with Tally in there. So,
yeah, because it gives you that offensive firepower, right, to be able to still take stuff off the board. So, all right, JJ.
All right. So
what about the CIS list?
This one is also a protector list as well. This is an 18-point list here. So for the generic here, I really was on the fence between a Belbalab that can take both Impervium and Beskar, or the HMP Separatist Predator. I ended up going with this just because you get more loadout value and slots with this one here. So I equipped this one here with electro chaff missiles, afterburners, and discord missiles on this particular one here. You're able to, they're deceptively fast. You could do a 5 straight with that HMP, do an afterburners if you want, and then set up a electro chaff missile for the second one there to help jam the enemy ships there, and then follow that with a discord missile on the same turn as well. Funny fact is you can also do the side slip 3 and then afterburners with the HMP if you wanted to as well. That's pretty gross. Pairing this up here was with Dirge with Predator, proton cannons, and contraband cybernetics. Kind of iffy on the Predator on Dirge, but I couldn't really think of anything like right off the bat like quickly. Cad Bane with marksmanship, proton cannons, engine upgrade, and counter nets to help slow down those ships or any ship that might get into the path of the counter net there. And then 2 bombardment drones with cluster mines and delayed fuses to help block off the path for potential aggressors that may come in to attack the shuttles or my ships there to round off that 18 points there.
So I don't know. Again, I think the engine upgrade on CAD. I just fly it different, I guess. The
reason why I have it on there is mainly for when CAD's ability triggers, right? There's times where you want to boost into a position or boost out of the position when CAD already has a stress. And if you don't have that engine upgrade, then you end up double stressing your CAD. So in my times that I played with CAD on the different lists that I have, the engine upgrade has been very, very key to still boost CAD while he's stressed and only have that single stress. So that's the reason why I keep it on there, just to give that option to CAD to have that white boost.
I guess. I don't know. Not my style. Not my style. So you didn't have a 23-point list, did you?
No, I didn't get a chance to finish it. No.
Right,
well,
so
I mean, the first order technically, but yeah.
Is it?
Yeah, first order is 23. Yeah.
Right, well, then I will give one of my lists because you didn't give yours.
Yeah. So if you scroll down, you get your rebel list. It looks like.
If it ever posts in here. Yep. So this is a list I kind of had built. I don't know how good it is. It is going with the vector cannons, Keo. So
Christ.
I mean, I'm sorry. Like you can take it off there.
Fine.
It's
No,
just
it's good.
it's just
good.
it's me trying to appease Alex with still having my
Me just
my take on it.
disrespecting Alex. Yeah, it's fine.
So I chose an Ezra gauntlet with the child, Lando, Contraband, and Night Brother. Sabine with Beskar, Bodica with clan chaining, optics, hopeful, Beskar. I don't know if that's the best use of Bodica's ability, right? But I like the hopeful aspect on there. With the weird Beskar plating aspect. So not 100% sold on it, but I kind of think it's a little silly, right? Then we have the B-12 Squadron and the generic for that, and this is where it changes, right? It gets synced laser cannon and plasmas. I don't know if that's good or not, but that's what I was putting on there. Sync laser and plasma, fire control. You're basically able to get off your plasma shot, right? And then you could take your sync laser cannon shot. You're never going to be calculating, but it's like 2-3 dash shots without being a main one. You get fire control on the first one, and hopefully your focus that you take or whatever you take on the second one. Then I have Thane, and this is just silly. There's probably better builds for Thane, but I thought Deadeye Shot would be hilarious for the crit aspect.
So much disrespect.
Yeah. But I really don't think it's good, but I just think it's hilarious, right? Like it's there just probably it's a meme. But in this type of an event, I think it could potentially be good. Then you have cluster missiles and chopper. And obviously the cluster missiles are there to just feel the chopper like we talked about last week. That's all it's there for. It's there for me to keep my Thane around. I just want my Thane to live. And then obviously the keel with the prockets, though I don't know, I might lean more towards the concussion missile piece. It might just feel better if you have that large of a list. But the prockets just felt like that spike damage, you know.
Yeah, definitely. I like it. So I've actually been seeing a lot of Thane with prockets because you could just close the S foils and boost focus and line up a bullseye with Thane and shoot a procket at somebody. I've seen that being used quite a bit. But I do like the survivability of this version of Thane with chopper and cluster missiles, just being able to regen those shields there. With Bodica, I'm not sure actually, because I've seen a lot more builds with Bodica being flown with Hera and squad leader or swarm tactics rather, so that way she can shoot at higher initiative. Shooting at her regular initiative 4, I mean, it's definitely interesting because you do have the potential to still do some good damage with Bodica, and hopeful can be really good to help boost into range when you need to. So it just really depends, but I definitely like this build, especially that Ezra with Lando. I mean, that could be really, really good.
Yeah, to me, I don't know. Like after listening to Alex for how many things about how good Lando is, I know it's not your Falcon Lando, but it does feel fun to do with Ezra. Like it's just like it feels just like maximum disrespect, right? Like you're not killing freaking Ezra, you know? I don't know. I don't know. I think there's probably other Ezra builds you could have, but all right, and the last list that we're going to cover, and then we're going to call it a night here, is another Alex Aggressor list with Republic.
Oh man. Okay, so it's a sinker swarm, right?
Oh,
Because I'm just like 23 points. I have sinker. It's actually also 2 I5s, and the rest of the list is I3, so that's really well. It's really well balanced. But this has sinker with Ayla, so you can focus and then coordinate, which is nice. R4P and synchronized council. Synchronized council works really well with Jag because they're also both the same initiative, by the way. So they even sync up even more with that. You just got a generic Delta 7. You get 10 extra points, so it's probably like R2D2 and concussion missiles. Or you can do the R4P17 and like a Procket, which is also really funny to me. And then you got SOC Jag, SOC Oddball, SOC Axe, and SOC Kickback. And it's all real lovely. You get the re-rolls inherently with Sinker, so it's just kind of just go over there and just kill everything.
And you're able to get enough guns to probably gun down a few of those cargo shuttles pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, you got 6 shots here, and they're all pretty well. I mean, they're probably double modified. You see a Sinker, who has also focus and coordinating things, so you can still get your diamond borons off just off rip, which is really silly. You could take the evade lock. So it's pretty
that's
nasty.
good. I like that. You know, there's a CIS version of that, right? Like you could. Oh my god! Can you? Oh my god! I can run Seer. I can run a Seer, Captain Seer.
Yeah.
And there's so many generics in here. It's not even funny.
Mm-hmm. I just wanted to do a faction that you guys didn't really do yet. So
yeah. No, that's fair. Oh, this is so.
I figured with that's a 6 ships sinker swarm list with 2 arcs, or 3 include sinker, and that's not okay.
So overall, guys, what do you think about the potential for these scenarios? Is this something that you think that could potentially make it into regular tournament play, or is this something that's just better off as a one-time event?
I think it's cool. I like switching up, just game styles. When I played like Halo, I'd play Slayer, but I'd also do like Capture the Flag and Assault and all that kind of stuff. It's a nice switching up. I'm not sure if I would do a tournament of this kind of stuff because it's just kind of I don't know, a little bit weird to me, but
I don't think it's fleshed out enough. I think we just somewhat broke a little bit of that. I mean, like a Sinker Swarm and a Seer Swarm both just seem really dirty, especially with the amount of energy shells and ion missiles floating around.
You could also run, like in my Republic list, you could run a generic V-Wing for 3 points.
Yeah.
And then take out Jag and Oddball and add even another 3-point ship, or take out one of them and add the 2 Z95s, So it can get silly. The game's, balanced around the 4 scenarios that we have. And I think switching up something that as meaningful as like running 18 or 23 points is pretty huge.
Yeah, I will tell you, I will be happy when our local runs this event. I'm all for that. I am not. Al, I hope Sean does not watch this episode. That's all I can say. I don't want Sean to know about the Sinker Swarm. Oh man,
it's a Sinker Swarm that passes around focus and evades.
Yuck.
With a cord.
Yeah. So to answer your question, JJ, the answer is I don't think this could ever be in standard, but I think you could run a tournament like with it, and I think if AMG really did want to, they could put out like Worlds invites or have like a separate circuit, and it would be popular enough to do something like that.
Yeah.
How about this? If they made this a day 2 of Worlds, or I guess maybe if we don't have it might be a 3-day Worlds that we have to play now. Maybe this is a day 3 of Worlds. I'm kind of sold on like I would play that in that. Like if I dropped out of Worlds or scrubbed out, I would play that event 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is definitely a fun alternate event that could be run. I mean, I think this has a valid way for at least AMG to make generics relevant again. And hey, maybe I'll finally be able to use one of those mini alt art cards for generics that I have stacked in my binder, like never to be used again. So, yeah.
Alex, does this bring Warthog back too? Maybe, possibly.
Oh yeah!
Congratulations, you get to manage to save the life of one person.
Exactly. Yeah.
If Warthog was in the CIS faction, maybe, but I don't know.
No? Okay. Just a thought, baby. Just a thought. So, all right. Well, thank you all for joining us tonight. I know we ran longer than we have been running, but I thought, I don't know, I thought this was fun, and I really wanted to do this. If you are tuning into this later on, I will be cutting this segment up, and this will be a standalone piece that we will be doing. So you will see the Children of Mandalore will have its own little thing in our Academy 101 section here within the next couple of weeks. I do promise I will also cut up all the points things. Life has been insanely crazy for me to do all the editing plus all the other stuff with my daughter and everything else. So I just have not had time to cut every one of those individual episodes up. But we will be putting those pieces together as well, so we can have the points update by faction individually in its own category. Either of you have anything else you want to cover before we wrap up for the night?
No, that's it. Just hope that everybody has a fun Store Champ season, and hope we get a lot more invites out there for players to go out to Worlds.
All right, cool. Well, thank you all so much for joining us. We will be back next week, 9 p.m. Eastern, 2100 Eastern, or 100 UTC the next day if you would like to join in. Next week, we will probably come back to, there is a couple of more Store Championships for us to cover, and we will come back to look at some faction rankings, I'm sorry, not faction rankings. We already did that. We will be coming back to look at some of our art list archetypes and try to finish that series out for the month of June. That way, in the month of July, we can start a brand new series for you all, where we will be covering a lot of the different scenarios and kind of set up and tear down and how you can win and different strategies for each of those scenarios. So thank you all. Have a good night, and we will see you on the flippity flop.
Have a good night, guys.
Thanks for listening.